Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, Em and Jay, and today we're looking at the first episode of Netflix's She-Ra Season 4. This episode picks up not long after the Season 3 finale. Queen Angela is trapped between dimensions, so Bright Moon is preparing for Glimmer's coronation. This episode has really slow pacing for a season premiere, especially when there should be a lot going on. Everyone's upset about Queen Angela, but they're trying to mask their feelings with the excitement of the coronation, so there ends up being a lot of jokes of people trying to distract Glimmer with party planning. It ends up overstaying its welcome, which has been an issue with the comedy in this show from the beginning. But this is the season 4 premiere, and the time spent on these jokes could have been used more productively. It starts with Castaspella calling Glimmer to the war room, and it seems pretty urgent, like she'll have to make an important decision as queen that would have consequences. But it turns out she's just choosing what cake to serve at the coronation. Why'd they bring the cakes to the war room? Shouldn't they be in the kitchen? She chooses ice cream cake, which probably would have been my choice too, and everyone laughs, but we get a shot of her being dejected. I understand what they were trying to do, focus on the future and the big event, but this is just going to lead to a blow-up if they keep avoiding it. Normally kingdoms will take a period of time to mourn the loss of their monarch, but it seems like little to no time has passed between seasons and they're already moving on to Glimmer's coronation, all while avoiding their feelings on Queen Angela. This might have worked if they'd said that it was because of the war and they didn't want to be without a leader for too long, but instead nothing is specified, so it doesn't feel natural. Instead, everyone just keeps insisting on not talking about Queen Angela and just focusing on the party, which seems kind of disrespectful. People are starting to arrive for the coronation, and Glimmer seems like she's kind of happy. She says she can't believe this day has actually come since she wasn't really expecting it. Her mother is an immortal being. It would have been interesting if this had been brought up before. Like, maybe part of the reason she's been acting out this whole series is because she thought it was useless to learn how to become queen if she thought her mother was going to be queen forever, so she wanted to try to learn to do other things like be a fighter, where she felt more useful. But now that it has come, she seems like she's a mix of excited and also sad. It was a missed opportunity not bringing this up earlier. Adora tells her that she and Bo will be right by her side the whole time and that everything will be perfect today. This seems to cheer Glimmer up a bit, and she asks how she looks, and Adora responds that she looks like a queen. Her new outfit looks a lot like her mother's, which I don't mind, although her gloves look kind of sporty to me, which I feel like doesn't match with the rest of the outfit. I also think this new look makes her look older, while everyone else looks the same, so it's kind of weird. A lot of it might be the hairstyle, which now seeing the show doesn't look too bad, but there are some angles where it's really not flattering. She also only has one earring, and I guess I like the symmetry of two. I think they all could have gotten new outfits since this feels like a new chapter for the show, so it looks like Glimmer is moving on now, but everyone else is stagnant. Plus Adora could really use a new outfit, and she's the main character. Castaspella interrupts and rushes Glimmer out so they can keep preparing for the coronation. Bo and Adora admit that they're worried about Glimmer, but Adora says that she deserves to have a perfect coronation, so they just have to keep distracting her. First of all, I'm not mad at them for trying to keep Glimmer happy, but it's important for them to grieve too. Grieving isn't a bad thing, it's healthy, but it's understandable that people want to avoid it. It does hurt. Second of all, Angela's not dead, she's just trapped between dimensions. I've seen enough science fiction to know you can come back from that. They catch up with Glimmer as Castaspella explains everything that's going to happen at the event. Glimmer will have to go on a quest to ultimately forge her connection to the Rune Stone, followed by her big speech to the crowd and then a ball. Although Casta says that the ball is the most important part of the event, but you'd think the quest would be. It just feels like she's prioritizing the party over the actual reason for the party. But more importantly than all of that, Casta explains that the Moonstone has been splitting its power between Angela and Glimmer ever since she was born. This answers one of our questions about the show, since Glimmer seemed to be the only princess that needed to recharge and would run out of magic on the field, so it's good to finally get clarification on that. Adora and Bo cut Castaspella off, that way they can try to distract Glimmer so she won't think about her mom. Although it would be good to get her perspective on the whole situation. It seemed like Castaspella and Angela didn't get along very well, but she does seem to get sad when she brings up Angela. I imagine this is a pretty hard day for her too, considering the fact that first she lost her brother and now her sister-in-law. As far as we know, Glimmer's the only family she has left, but we don't really get any of that. Instead, Casta acts pretty cheerful outside of this one moment. What if she was also masking her feelings of grief with this party planning? Maybe she regrets not having a closer relationship with Angela when she was here. This all could have been a good way for her and Glimmer to bond. Unfortunately, not only is this relationship not explored, we don't even see Casta for most of the season. She only serves a role in this episode, and it's mostly for comedic purposes. purposes, even though there's potential for a deeper narrative with her. Anyway, Adora and Bo are excited about the quest. Casta gives them the instructions on a scroll and also a lantern they'll apparently need on the quest. Then she asks Glimmer her opinion on the flowers for the event. She says they're fine, but Casta takes that to mean that she hates them, so she demands the flowers be burned and fires the florist. Yeah, that might have been a slight overreaction, Casta. Then she tells Glimmer not to worry because on top of being a great sorceress, she's also a great party planner. It's not actually that we mind jokes, it's just that we don't like it when they use jokes instead of drama and character development. There's so much potential with this character and this is what they're using her for? The next few minutes are more jokes. Frosta made an ice sculpture of her and Glimmer really buff. Not the most appropriate sculpture for the occasion, and also kind of rude. This is supposed to be Glimmer's day. Glimmer hates it and tries to get rid of her by telling her to greet the guests. So Frosta takes that to mean that she's the bouncer now. That's not actually what she meant, but she sighs in relief of being rid of her. You know, now would actually be a good time for Glimmer and Frosta to bond. Frosta took the throne at a young age, so she knows what this is like. But the show doesn't have time for that because they need to make more jokes. And Casta complains that they still need flower arrangements and demands to know where the florist is, but Glimmer reminds her that she fired him. Casta suggests that Glimmer do the flowers, but Glimmer isn't interested. She sees that Mermista is standing around doing nothing, so she suggests that she should do the flowers instead. Mermista actually says that flower arranging is her passion, much to Perfuma's dismay. And Swiftwind wants to sing a song even though that's not actually a part of the coronation. Bo is looking over the scroll that explains what they need to do for the coronation. He reads that there's a ceremonial robe she needs to wear, but none of them know where that is. Glimmer wants to look for it together, but Adora insists that she stay behind and have fun, while she and Bo looks for it. And Casta needs her to pick out napkins for the dining room anyway, and Mermista is flooding the courtyard. During all of this, the Moonstone seems to be calling out to Glimmer. She just looks at it sadly and walks away. It then cuts to the Fright Zone. Hordak is moping in his lab by the destroyed portal machine, and Catra comes to get him. Apparently operations have stalled in the Fright Zone and Catra's getting antsy. She's pretty much back to business as usual despite the whole portal thing blowing up in their faces. You'd think she would actually take a moment to reflect on how badly she messed up. Honestly, it should have been her to be trapped between dimensions. She's the one who was responsible for all of this. But instead she demands on making a plan. But Hordak laughs at this, saying her last plan was to use the portal machine before it was ready, and look how well that turned out for them. I guess in the end he never actually found out about the whole Mara cutting off their ability to use portals thing. Although he was dragged to Etheria through a portal, maybe that situation will be explored eventually? Like Glimmer's powers being weaker than the other princesses? It would be good to get some clarification on that. Catra is really dismissive of this, saying that the rebellion's in a really bad spot because they lost their queen, so it worked out for them in the end. She honestly sees this as a win, and isn't going to reflect on what happened at all. Even after her body got disfigured and she was sucked into a void, she's really going to continue this self-destructive path. But Hordak questions how effective Catra really is since she wasn't able to prevent the Fright Zone from being infiltrated. But she blames that on Entrapta, which sets off Hordak, causing him to throw debris at her. He yells at her some more, but Catra gets distracted with the crystal on his chest, which is foreshadowing for later. He says that she's lucky the message he sent did get through to Horde Prime, cause that's the only reason why she's still standing here. Although he did try to kill her 3 times for much less, so I'd say he's still being inconsistent on all of this. But he kicks her out, although as the door closes in her face she's smiling, scheming something. Back in Bright Moon, it's more of the same jokes. Glimmer's alone in her room when the others come in saying that they found the coronation robe, but it's too big for her. I'm not sure why the robe is this big. I could understand that it was too big for Glimmer because the last person who wore it was her mom, but it's comically big. It's just another joke, I guess. Casta has a nice moment where she tells her that she's very proud of her and she knows she's going to make a great queen, but then she rushes off saying she's going to fix the robe because the quest is going to start soon. I wish this could have been a more in-depth conversation. We have all these jokes and then 5 seconds of a good moment. This could be their chance to grow closer. Up until this point, it seems like Glimmer thinks of her aunt as someone she loves because she's family, but she also finds her to be annoying and embarrassing. It seems like they don't want to explore this relationship, even though there's a lot of potential here. This show claims to be about interpersonal relationships, but they miss so many opportunities. Glimmer is worried that they still don't know much about the quest. I wonder why they're planning everything the day of the coronation. Guests are arriving and they still have so much to do. You'd think they would have at at least given her a day or so to prepare. But she tries to stay positive, saying that they do have the lantern and Adora and Bo will be by her side the whole time. But Bo pulls Adora aside and admits that he lost the lantern. He tells her that he doomed the entire kingdom. Adora yells at him to calm down and says that they'll find the lantern and Glimmer will be none the wiser. She insists that this day will be perfect and runs off to find the lantern, but runs into Shadow Weaver. Shadow Weaver is acting very sketchy, but you know what's new. Adora is shocked to see her, but Shadow Weaver says not to worry and insists that she's a guest in the castle. At least she's being watched by guards. She asks Adora to give their new queen her best wishes. She then says she hopes the two of them are still close since power changes people. Adora insists that Glimmer's always been a good friend and she'll be a good queen too. What am I even supposed to say to that? Remember that time Glimmer ignored Adora's concerns about being followed and led Shadow Weaver to Mysticor? Or that time that she ignored Adora telling her to keep an eye on Scorpia so she could guilt trip Bo at the prom? Shadow Weaver responds ominously, saying she hopes for Adora's sake that she's right, as Adora rushes off. This next part is more jokes. Frost has been freezing everyone in place because of the whole bouncer thing, and she thinks everybody's trying to sneak in. Perfume was upset about Mermista doing the flowers. Mermista's arrangements don't look anything like flowers, but they aren't bad, they just aren't appropriate for the occasion. They look more like something you'd find at an aquarium. And it turns out Swiftwind ended up with the lantern, but he won't give it back unless he can sing his Coronation song. How come Swiftwind wasn't around when he actually would have been useful, like back when they went to the Crimson Waste last season, but the writers will use him here when he's really not needed and is just being really obnoxious. Glimmer comes out into the courtyard and sees all the chaos. She quickly gets overwhelmed because everybody's yelling and trying to get her attention. She yells at them to stop, but just then her ice sculpture head breaks off and rolls to her feet. Symbolism. Casta tries to reassure her, but Glimmer pushes her away. She then takes the lantern from Bo and tells him that she just wants to get all this done with. This is already a stressful situation, but they're making it worse by doing all the party planning the day of the event. Now guests are arriving and Frosta is freezing all of them. And I'd imagine most of the guests are upset about Queen Angela being lost. How is this going to reflect on Queen Glimmer? Back in the Fright Zone, Catra yells at Scorpia because she's supposed to be getting rid of all of Entrapta's things by Hordak's orders, and she thinks that job should be done by now. But Scorpia says she knows that she doesn't actually want Entrapta to stay on Beast Island and suggests that the two of them go rescue her. Catra gets really mad at this suggestion and says that Entrapta is a traitor and got what she deserved. But Scorpia still insists, saying that Entrapta didn't betray them and she was just trying to protect them from the portal, and that she was right. She tries to continue, saying that if Adora hadn't shut the portal down it would have destroyed them all. But Catra attacks her, insisting that Entrapta did betray them and that the portal worked because the rebellion is in shambles. She demands to know if she understands and Scorpia nods. So Catra leaves, telling her to get this place cleared out. After Catra leaves, Scorpia tells Emily that it's safe to come out now, who's been hiding this whole time. And she tells her she won't let anything happen to her. Scorpia still has some faith in Catra even though she doesn't deserve it at all. Catra already threatened her with violence when she threatened to send her to Beast Island along with Entrapta if she didn't keep her mouth shut. And she's still doing it. I am glad that Scorpia is defying some of her demands, like by keeping Emily safe. Hopefully she'll start to see that Catra is a toxic person and she needs to get away from her. So 12 minutes into the episode we finally get to the coronation. It's about time, honestly. There's a pretty big crowd for once. Most of the time the kingdom is totally empty, and most of the crowd is silhouettes. The ceremony starts, even though I'm pretty sure the party planning never actually got finished. Also, Bo's parents are here. George is completely off model, but it's nice that he was able to put aside his resentment for the princesses after years in order to attend the coronation. Castaspella explains what's going to happen to the crowd. Glimmer will go on a quest accompanied by her witnesses, Bo and Adora, and afterwards she'll be crowned Queen of Bright Moon. Mermista opens the waterfall, revealing there was a cave behind it that leads to a cavern where the quest will take place, which the three of them enter. I don't understand why the quest wasn't earlier in the episode. Instead, the runtime was bogged down with filler and jokes. Glimmer looks like her heart really isn't in it though. She's still not addressing her feelings. As they explore the caverns, Bo comments how strange it is they had no idea this was here the entire time. Adora wonders how far it goes, but then Glimmer snaps at them, demanding they stop acting this way. They question what she means by that, but she insists that none of this matters, and she throws the lantern in anger. This leads to them finding the specific path they need to continue on the quest, and I honestly don't like the implications here. I understand this is a frustrating situation situation, but they also went and made it as stressful as possible. They're all acting like the queen is dead, don't seem to be planning any sort of rescue, they didn't take a period of time to grieve, and they planned everything the day of the event. Now they're able to continue their quest not because of something they earned through teamwork or determination, or coming to an understanding about the situation, but because Glimmer got so angry that she threw something across the room, and it just happened to land where they needed to go, which is not a good thing to do. What if the lantern had broken? It was never specified that this thing is indestructible, plus it's a culturally significant artifact, along with needing it for the quest. What's the audience supposed to take away from this? They find themselves in the Chamber of Queens and see the altar where the lantern has to be placed. Glimmer seems like she's in better spirits now, only for them to get ambushed by a giant crystal monster. It attacks them and Glimmer ends up dropping the lantern. She's very concerned about it and wants to go back for it, but Bo and Adora have to hold her back so they can run from the monster. See, having her throw it earlier wasn't a very good idea, because now she's desperate to get it back, but before she cared so little about it, she didn't even care if she broke it. They escape into a cave where the monster can't catch them because it's too big, and Adora questions why there's some kind of giant crystal monster hiding in the caverns under Bright Moon. Bo admits he might have read something about having to subdue a crystal guardian. Adora asks why he didn't bring that up earlier, but he says it was confusingly worded. Maybe the others should have looked over those scrolls too. This quest is kind of a big deal. They probably should have studied more. But I think they can take this thing. It's not like Adora can't turn into She-Ra. And Bo has his arrows. It's not like they weren't allowed to bring them. And they fought similar creatures before. Adora tells Glimmer to teleport them out of there, but she reveals she hasn't been recharging her powers. She explains that she and her mother have been sharing the runestone's power her whole life, but now that she's gone, this would be the first time she's taking all the power for herself, and recharging would admit that she's really gone. She then cries about how everyone's moving on like she didn't matter, and everyone's acting like this is just some big party and they don't even remember her. In other words, this was totally the wrong approach. Maybe Glimmer should have just told them she wanted to talk about it. Adora says that of course she mattered, but talking about it is painful, and that they wanted to make today perfect, but they just didn't know what to do. Glimmer admits that she doesn't know either, but maybe they can figure it out together. This sounds cynical, but I feel like I've seen all this before, where they hug and make a promise, but later that promise gets broken. I want to believe it, but I've been burned before. Adora transforms into She-Ra and attacks the Guardian. Glimmer goes for the lantern while Bo and Adora fight it off. This results in a short but pretty decent fight scene. We also get some nice teamwork between She-Ra and Bo. The Guardian seems to have cornered them, but Glimmer calls out to it and then it charges at her. They tell her to run, but she declares herself Queen of Bright Moon and then puts the lantern in the slot. This causes a reaction in the Moonstone. The Guardian calms down and Glimmer is infused with light. The magic raises her up and it looks like she has wings, but it's only an effect. I guess she'll get wings when she gets older? The Guardian is satisfied, so it leaves, but then we hear Angela's voice call out to Glimmer. She turns around to see a hologram of her mother. Apparently Queen Angela left a recording for her. I wonder when she recorded this. The recording explains that she's walking in the footsteps of their ancestors, and that she's sorry she can't be with her right now, but she knows that Glimmer will be alright. She says she did her best to teach Glimmer how to rule, but that she was always ready to lead, because she's strong. She's also pretty reckless and irresponsible, but I guess I shouldn't kill the moment. She finishes off her message saying that she loves her, and how proud she is. The message then turns into an orb of light and floats off with the other orbs. So the quest is over and Glimmer teleports them out of the cavern. It's disappointing that the quest wasn't the main part of the episode. This was a great opportunity for world building. We could have learned about the history of Bright Moon, some of its past rulers, and the culture and tradition around this quest. Sure, it's good to have comedic moments, especially for levity in stressful situations, just like Glimmer experienced in this episode, but it seemed like the comedy ended up being the main focus. And it's disappointing to see major plot elements and world building take a back seat to that. Like, why does this quest involve taking this lantern and putting it at this altar? And why are these caverns under Bright Moon? Does it date back to the founding of Bright Moon? But we don't get any significance to any of this. She just has to do it and doesn't ask any questions, even though she apparently wasn't aware of any of this before. But she doesn't seem curious at all. They teleport to the runestone and see a beautiful party waiting for them. It turns out Frostum, Mista, and Perfuma worked things out out off screen. Honestly, after seeing them argue for the whole episode, it would have been nice to see this coming together moment. Maybe there could have been a scene with them while the best friend squad was on their quest of them feeling bad about hurting Glimmer's big day and wanting to make it up to her. But instead, this is all we get. It does look nice though. I especially appreciate that Frosta figured out she shouldn't be in the sculpture and replaced herself with Queen Angela. It also helps with the fact that no one was allowed to grieve, even though I still think you can get her back. Casta tells Glimmer it's time for her big speech, and she gives a pretty good speech actually, addressing that she's there because Queen Angela sacrificed herself to save Etheria, and they can't let her sacrifice be in vain, since they're still at war with the Horde, and they can win if they work together. I appreciate that they understood that her speech had to be an actual speech, and that it needed to be serious. After so many jokes, it was nice to have a serious coming together moment. It cuts to the Fright Zone. Horde approaches his throne only to find Catra's already sitting there. It also turns out that she changed outfits off screen, and it's kind of disappointing we didn't actually get to see her do this. Her changing her outfit could have been a good character moment, because a character changing their clothes usually symbolizes growth in some way, like with Glimmer's new outfit. It looks a lot like the outfit her mother would wear, which is symbolizing her new role as queen, and we got to see her looking at it in the mirror, so that symbolism was portrayed well to the audience. But Catra spent the entire episode in her old outfit, only to suddenly appear in this one. It just seems like a missed opportunity, especially when it could have been used to parallel Glimmer. Horde confronts her about being on his throne, but she pulls some wires which knocks out the electricity in the room. The lights start flashing red, and Catra attacks Horde while it's dark. She tears out the crystal towards the top of his chest, which I guess was stabilizing his suit. It basically renders him immobile. He tries to threaten her, but she just laughs at him. It's not like there's anything he can do right now anyway. She says that Horde Prime is coming, and it's going to be really bad for them if he shows up and they haven't actually conquered the planet yet. And she's not wrong when it comes to that. Horde did jump the gun by sending the message out prematurely. He submits and asks her what she wants. She sits back down on the throne saying that his vanity projects are over and they're going to crush the rebellion. So basically she's saying she wants control. She throws down his crystal and he scrambles for it. And the episode ends with her saying they're going to do great things together. Horde was supposed to be this menacing big bad of the show, but instead he was basically reduced to a joke. He's not threatening at all, and he hasn't even faced Adora yet, but he's already been defeated and humiliated. In the last season, we got to see Adora try to confront him, but they never built on that. She was literally tied to a pole, and then he fell over after yelling at her for like 2 seconds. There's a really great opportunity for drama here, but they ignore it and let Catra take him out like he's some chump. Now any confrontation that Horde and She-Ra might have in the future is cheapened because he's already been defeated. Not to mention he has a weakness right in the middle of his chest and it glows. He should probably guard that better. Overall, this season premiere was kind of dull. It had poor pacing. They spent more time on jokes preparing for the coronation than they did on the quest Glimmer had to go on to become queen. And we didn't get to know a lot of the significance of what she was doing. So when she throws the lantern, we don't know exactly how important it is, other than she probably shouldn't throw it. I'm not really sure this quest proves that Glimmer can be a good leader and queen. She had to deal with one monster and put a lantern in an altar, but we've seen her be in charge of the Princess Alliance, and she hasn't been a good leader. She's not good at communicating, and she's reckless, rushing off to do whatever she wants when she wants. Now she has to lead the Princess Alliance and Bright Moon, and I think that's just gonna be too much for her. It was nice that Glimmer was missing her mom, but she treated her so poorly when she was around. I think they should have had a moment where she thought about her mother and how horrible she treated her, and how she could have been better as a daughter. Angela really deserved better. I think there was a lot missing from Catra in this episode. She's clearly hiding things from herself and the others, constantly insisting that Entrapta betrayed them and the portal worked out for them, even though neither is really true and it's obvious. Entrapta was a big asset to them, and they lost her because of this. But Catra feels very much like she's just going on business as usual. It's probably affecting her, but we don't get to see any of that in this episode. I wish we had seen her make the decision to change her clothes. It probably would have given us more insight. Honestly, what we were getting with the Horde in this episode was more interesting than what was going on with the Princess Alliance, which is disappointing. You'd think a coronation would have been more interesting, but that's usually how it goes in this series. So that was our take on the episode. What did you guys think? Did you think the comedy worked in this episode? Or would you have preferred to see more plot and world building like we did? We'd love to to hear from you. Thanks for watching, we really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more reviews like this. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.